Hi, homeschoolers. I'm Heather. Welcome to another Homeschool Live presented by the Old Schoolhouse. Today, I will be interviewing Dale Cox, food scientist and founder of Beakers and Bricks. Dale and I would really appreciate it if you could take a minute right now and share this video so we can get out there to all the homeschoolers. Please also comment, like, and feel free to ask questions throughout the interview. And now I'm really looking forward to introducing you today to Dale Cox of Beakers and Bricks. As I mentioned before, he is a professional food scientist, and he's also a Lego brick enthusiast, which is how his company, Beakers and Bricks, was born. Dale and his wife, Leanne, have 3 children. They live in North Carolina. He speaks Spanish, loves digging in the dirt, collects Lego sets, and is a woodworker. He worked 23 years for companies such as Kellogg's and Nabisco and other popular food products along the way. And now, through print and self-paced online courses, he's sharing his food science knowledge and has a popular physics course that he uses Legos with to help teach children. With offerings for ages 6 through high school and a new online-only series called Edible Knowledge for the Curious Cook, there's something for the entire family. And I think you might even have something for adults, if that's correct.
I do.
I think you're going to talk about it in a few minutes. Thank you so much for joining us, Dale. How are you doing?
Doing great. How about yourself?
I am wonderful.
Good. Yeah, in fact, that last series that you just mentioned, the Edible Knowledge for the Curious Cook, that one I designed with adults in mind, but it's really for cooks of all ages. Okay. Anybody who likes to cook and is just even a little bit curious in the kitchen, and I'll explain a little bit about that so as we move along.
All right. Well, let's just jump right into it. I'm really excited to hear about Beakers and Bricks, your company that you started. Can you just share a little bit about it?
Sure. So the intro that you just read kind of tells the story. I'm a professional food scientist with a bachelor's and a master's degree, and I worked for quite a long time for a lot of those companies that you'll recognize. And I think you can see on the screen now. Here, I'll go down to one of the ones here, and let me go back to that. Okay. Well, this is me as a little kid. I'm also a Star Wars nut. Did you mention that? I can't remember if you mentioned that. So,
I'm not sure.
But I couldn't figure out how to get that into my company, or I would have. I enjoy the movies. There was 11 when they came out, so I've been having a lot of fun with them. Okay. Lego enthusiast. And as you mentioned, that's how Beakers and Bricks was born. I'll talk a little bit about what food science is. Pretty much what my company does is we publish now online courses and print courses that teach food science and other science. We have one course that's physics and engineering using Lego bricks, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But what food science is, so food science combines all the sciences. So if any of you out there enjoy sciences or any of the sciences, but you don't necessarily enjoy any one of them, that enough to where you want to be, say, a chemist or a biologist or a microbiologist or a physicist. Part of what attracted me to the field is I love science, but I was kind of in that category. I didn't want to be any of those ists. I didn't know about food science until I was actually a junior in college. So part of my goal through these courses is to introduce food science as a career possibility a little sooner. So food science actually combines all of the sciences at an applied level, and it's something that you can actually use every day because you see it all the time in the kitchen. In fact, when I was a little kid, well, maybe not quite so little, I was 13, 14 years old. I developed an interest in cooking, and my mom, she had a cookbook. It was called the Pillsbury Bake Off Cookbook. And I spent most of the summer going through and making raspberry torts and cream de menthe rolls and all kinds of stuff. So mainly baking desserts.
I'm sure she loved that.
Not necessarily dinners and things like that, although I got into that a little bit more. But I always wondered what in the world was going on in the kitchen. You know, why did egg whites turn white? You know, why, if you overcooked broccoli, why does it go from nice bright green and firm to olive green and mush in like a minute? You know, if you overcook it, why can you make a nice flaky pie crust sometimes, but other times it turns out tough? You know, what's going on there? You know, we know it, we see it. but what's actually happening. So that's what food science is. That's what food science explains. Even if you don't want to be a food scientist, it's useful every day as you're cooking in the kitchen, and having a little bit of an idea or knowledge of some of the food science principles can help you to become a better cook.
Wow. That's really good, because I think a lot of kids can be intimidated with cooking because they don't understand maybe some of the basics. I mean, I know when I first started cooking, I didn't. I had to learn from scratch even when I first got married. But yeah, once you understand, certain techniques, you can't just necessarily pick up a cookbook and do what it says. Sometimes you really just need to understand the whys behind it. I think it'll make it less intimidating for kids. Once they understand those, then they can do anything.
Yeah. And food science doesn't necessarily make you a good cook. One thing that's one thing I like to tell people. They automatically think that I'm a chef. I'm like, nope. It's not the same thing. A culinary degree and a food science degree are quite different. So a food scientist, I can explain what happened, but I don't necessarily have the creativity of combining different seasonings and flavors to know exactly what people are going to like or what tastes good. The combination of those two, actually, if anybody again is considering, I worked with a guy who was a chef first, but living the life of a chef was very difficult. I'm not that familiar with it other than what he told me, but he said he was running a restaurant in a main, a full-blown Marriott hotel. And it was like a 24/7 job. So he went back to school and he got a master's degree in food science. So that combination of creativity and the science, companies like Kellogg's and General Mills and any of the bigger guys, they'll pretty much fight over you for if you have that combination. So just keep that in mind as you're moving along.
That's really good to know.
Mm-hmm. So I mentioned a little bit about what food science can tell you. So why egg whites turn white, the pie crusts, beef. Sometimes it can be super tender. Well, you can take the same cut of beef and fry it in a pan, and it can be tough. But you take that same thing and stick the same cut of beef and put it in the oven for a few hours, and you have fall apart tender pot roast. Now, what's going on there? Shortening. Why is it called shortening? What in the world is gluten anyway, and why is it such a big deal these days? What causes freezer burn? So those are some of the things that food science can tell you. And understanding those principles can really help you, especially if you already have some of the creative part behind you, just from either years of experience or even some things you've read or you like to watch the Food Network and have picked up a few things. It can really help you to understand what's going on. And I can promise as you go through some of the, whichever course, it'll be like, aha, I see that all the time. I was wondering what in the world was going on, because that's what happened to me in my first years of, or first courses in food science. It was aha moments all the time. So all foods are made of proteins, carbohydrates, water, fats. And then the other thing is ash. If you take a food and just burn it, you end up with ash. But most of my courses, ash isn't really something very interesting to talk about. So my courses focus around these things. It's all in there. Food science, it really helps you understand what's happening as you're cooking. So it explains why all this stuff is going on, at least to the best of our understanding right now. And like any science, there's nothing ever set in stone. Sometimes, in fact, I hear that term, settled science. And that really confuses me as a scientist, because there is no such thing. It's always the best that we understand it right now. And there's research happening as we speak that may change that as we move down the road. So, okay, I already mentioned that. So you want me to talk a little bit about what food scientists do?
I would love that, because I think, like you mentioned, some kids, they just love science. Their parents know that their kids love science, but they don't know what direction to go into. So explaining this might help a lot of parents watching.
Sure. So most people don't really have any idea. I certainly didn't. But if you think about it, you walk into the grocery store and pretty much everything that you see has food scientists behind it. Any food, and even any restaurant especially the larger ones, the larger chains, they have food scientists that helped in the development of the food products. Mm. So most of my career I spent in research and development and new product development. Basically, and I have a course, one of my online courses is called Why Do Food Companies Make Food Addictive? And it goes through the whole process, the whole product development process, and how most of the time, if it's done right, the end product is something that people really like. Yeah. And that's, in a nutshell, why foods are addictive. It takes a lot of work. There's a lot of testing, a lot of consumer testing, but it really comes down to giving the consumer exactly what they want. And the food scientists, like, just as an example, if you're given a new product, like, for example, I developed reduced fat white cheddar Cheez-Its way back in the day when I was at Kellogg's. And you get a concept. Basically, it's like a paragraph. And the marketing folks have said, okay, this is the concept. We've tested it with consumers. This is what they want. Now you need to make a food product that fulfills against that concept. Wow. And so then I'll go to work and I'll make a whole bunch of prototypes in the lab, and then we'll test those. We'll eliminate a bunch, and then we'll test them, eventually a subset with consumers, and in taste tests, kind of much larger versions of like the classic Pepsi versus Coke commercial, right? But much more involved. And eventually come out with one that's the winner, and then you take it to the production facility and start it up and make sure there aren't any unexpected issues, and almost always there are issues associated with production that need to be resolved, and then move it into production, and then follow up with it until it's pretty much running on autopilot. And then there's always process optimization. So some of the other things that you can do: quality assurance, sensory evaluation, that's where I just mentioned, doing a lot of the consumer testing, food engineering. So a combination that's pretty popular is getting an engineering degree and a master's degree in food science. And then you work more on the equipment side of things and on the production line design. And then there's manufacturing, process support, and improvement. And I actually spent quite a bit of time in this area as well. I actually enjoyed it more even than the new product development.
Really?
Yeah, I did. It was much more challenging.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of statistics involved with designing experiments and actually running those. Like, just as an example, I worked for, it was Malto Meal, and then Post bought it. I was in a production facility where we make cornflakes, and I spent the better part of, almost the 10 years that I was there, about 9.5 years. And the whole time I was working on optimizing the cornflake cooking process. Wow. And you might wonder, what in the world can be difficult about making a cornflake? Well, there's a lot of variables, actually. It's a huge cooker that rotates, and you inject a flavor syrup, which is basically sugar, salt, and then water, and then and sometimes a couple other things. And then the time that you inject that, the speed that the cooker rotates, how fast that it rotates, the steam that you inject when you do it, what pressure you take the cooker up to, and again, how fast it rotates during that period, and then, of course, how long you cook it for. So all these variables, and they're all interrelated. So to actually understand what's going on there is a pretty big statistical model that we have to very carefully develop and then test, and then optimize its production. So you end up with what the consumer wants all the time, and you can do it affordably. So it's pretty challenging, and it's a lot of fun.
It's just so wild to think that there's people in a boardroom who come up with the idea, and then you have to execute it. It's your job. This is what we want. Here you go. But you get the fun part of the job, basically.
Yeah, it can be a really good career, and it's one that's not very visible. It pays pretty well compared to a lot of careers that are out there. And one of the most interesting things that are good things is, even in the depths of the last recession, if you had a food science degree, it was pretty much a guaranteed job. Again, partly because not too many people know about it, I'm kind of changing that a little through my courses and through conversations like this one. But it's still a fairly hidden or unknown major in college. And the demand is definitely there. I mean, people tend when money gets tight, people tend to stop eating last, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the last thing that gets cut. The job stability is pretty much there. So,
and even not just for jobs. I mean, it might even be important, if things get bad again, just to have basic knowledge of certain food items and the science behind them. Because, for example, during this past year, this is hilarious. I did not know that black bean, well, I don't know if it's any type of beans, but basically that they can kill you.
oh,
And that if you don't cook them properly. So I think that is very important, because if it gets to a point where people have to live off of beans, if they don't know that you have to cook them properly, that could not end well. So just basic things like that. I think if this next generation really wants to know more about food science, that might help them in so many different ways.
mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. So these are all some products that I've worked on
Wow.
over the years. So just to give you an idea, mostly things that you would want to eat in moderation, if at all, right? A lot of processed, what we would call more highly processed foods. But just as you're saying, pretty much any food we eat, even if it's a black bean, you have to process it in some fashion to make it edible. I kind of allude in many of my courses to my philosophy as a 23-year food science veteran in the industry is I eat any of the stuff that I've made. All of it was made with good quality ingredients, but all of them are more highly processed than I recommend eating all the time.
Yeah.
These are all treats, and they should be used as such. They shouldn't be your daily staple any more than McDonald's every day should be your daily staple. I advocate for eating as close to nature as possible, as often as possible. But when you need a convenience, that's okay. Just don't do it all the time. That's pretty much my philosophy, moderation in what you're doing. So I also worked internationally with Kellogg's. So I traveled to Japan and South Korea.
Wow.
I spent most of December in South Africa. They sell their stuff everywhere. So there's opportunities for that in the food industry as well. And even my first job, which was Gorton's, I went over to England and we had to participate in what they called the International Fish Day, coming up with a lot of different ideas for fish products.
Wow.
So now I started out by making print courses. So I have 3 that teach food science. The first one is an introduction to food science. It's an overview, and it has chapters. The way they're organized is there's chapters on all the main components of food. So this one, so water, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and I teach principles. Well, the first thing I do in that one is I introduce what food science is, careers that you can have in it, salary ranges that are current as of a couple of years ago anyway. And then I get into food science itself, just to give an idea as to what food science covers. So chapters on all those, the main components of food. And once I introduce those principles, then they're reinforced with experiments that you do in the kitchen.
Oh, great.
So, and one of the great things about those experiments is it's not unlike other science courses. You most likely have all of the stuff that you need already in your kitchen.
Awesome.
And if you're missing something, it's probably something you'll be able to use for making lunch or dinner the next day. So whatever's left over. And that is one of the beauties of food science. Usually it's knowledge you can eat. That's my tagline.
Kids love that.
Edible knowledge you can eat. And while most of the experiments, you'll end up with something that you can eat, they're not cookbooks. They're designed to reinforce a science principle that I just introduced in that chapter. And it may not necessarily taste good, but it's something that you can try. And generally, as part of the experiment, you're encouraged to, you need to try it to some degree. So Well, there's a chapter on water in this book, and the first one called an overview. The second one is all on water, and there isn't any of the other introductory stuff. It just dives straight into many different food concepts on water, and then a whole bunch more experiments. And you might wonder what all you can talk about with water in a whole book, but this is really just scratching the surface. Mm-hmm. But I can promise, especially for the parents and even for the students who cook at all, there'll be things that are familiar to you. You just never knew. Right. And as you understand the concepts, it'll again help you to improve your skills in the kitchen. These two courses are intended for the sweet spots, junior high into high school.
Okay.
Because I get pretty deep into the concepts.
So there's just two courses here, right? I see 3 books, but are those like the answer key and a teacher manual and those 3 separate courses?
These are 3 separate ones.
Oh, okay.
So this is an overview. You do this one first, and then you do the water book.
Oh, I see.
You can see my mouse moving around there.
Now.
And these are, again, for junior high into high school is kind of the sweet spot. This course, by popular demand, people really wanted one that would kind of be scaffolding for their younger kids. Mm-hmm. So this is actually intended for 6 to 10-year-olds.
Okay.
The Introduction to Food Science for Kids. So there's a little bit, like if you did this book, there's a few experiments that are similar to ones in both of these, but they're at a much simpler level. So if you did this one and then they were interested in it and they wanted to do this one and they're older, it would be fine. Okay. So most of them are new experiments. So, and it's a little different format in that. Instead of introducing a principle and then reinforcing it with an experiment, you do the experiment and then I explain what they saw.
Okay.
In there. So, and then I mentioned my love of Legos. I still collect Legos myself. I'm turning 55 soon, and I still buy them for myself. So, this one is teaching physics and engineering. I'm using Legos, and I can go into those in a little more depth. I primarily use this type of Legos, the Technic type.
Okay.
Making models like these. I have 16 custom design models that reinforce. I mean, you build them and then you experiment with them. And that course also is for junior high into high school, because there's a lot of Lego physics stuff out there, but I looked at a lot of it before I designed this course. But most of it is I guess what I would call it shallow as far as the depth of concept presentation. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the flip side of that. So younger kids younger students, they'd certainly be able to build the models, mm-hmm. but to understand the concepts as they go through the experiments, it might be more difficult. And that's why the age recommendation, junior high into high school, is still for those.
So when you buy your book for this, does it come with a set, or do you have to buy the Technic set?
It does not come with the Lego bricks. I can explain how that works. But let me go back first, and I'll show you guys. So if you go to my website, which is it's edibleKnowledge.com. I think that's been up on the screen a few times. There's a bunch of videos that you can look at that talk about the different options that we have. And this is on food science, and I'll get to the physics one here in a minute. But something that we've done over the last year is most all of our courses now are converted into online, self-paced online courses. And they're hosted by a company called Thinkific. And just as an example, this is that first course, an overview, and it's pretty much the book online.
Okay.
Except for then there's a lot of you get to see me with a beard. It was COVID. Come on. But there's assignments that you do, and there's tests that are graded. Wow. In the as part of the course. They're self-graded or automatically graded, and those are not in the book. and then review sections and videos and things that are not there. But it still follows the book pretty closely.
Okay.
Um,
How long do you think it would take an average student to go through this course or to go through one of the courses?
So on my website, if you go to, well, this is the landing page. So if you go down here and shop print books, it brings up all the books. And then here's the print video. And if you click on any of these books, it'll take you to that one and explains a little bit about it. And then there's a sample chapter, so you can open up the PDF and look inside what's there, so you can kind of get a good idea as to whether or not it's a good fit for whatever maturity level of your student. Right. Table of contents. There's a bunch of video links that I have in there, and that's there. But there's also, to answer your question, proposed schedules. So like a lot of people will buy it and they want something fun for their students to do over the summer, even though it can be, depending on the state you're in, a 4-credit course for science as a science elective. But like if you're doing that over the summer for something fun and just doing that, you can blow through the book in a couple of months.
Okay.
But it's intended to be a full semester, like a 16-week course.
Okay.
And I have these proposed schedules for that and for the water course in there. And then there's a video where I actually flip through it and talk about it a little bit. Wow. The equipment that you need. So, okay. So, something that's new. Well, I mentioned that we have all these courses online. So the food science course 2, water, is actually not quite finished yet online, but it'll be there soon. The first one is pretty similar to the book. That one will also be pretty similar to the book. The food science for kids one is very different online in that it's completely converted to video. Mm. And I have this little red animated monster, and if you listen to him, you'll recognize my voice. But it makes it a lot more engaging, especially for the younger students. And all of the experiments have been converted to video. So it actually goes through and shows you exactly what you need to do. Here, I'll mute that. I go through some of the things that you want to watch out for that might mess up your experiment. So it really takes all the guesswork out of it.
That's great.
And then the explanations, as you get down to the, let's see, where we go. There's the procedures. There's printable procedures. Where are they at? Here we go. So I have them all. There's video, and then you can actually download it and print it if you want to take that with you into the kitchen. And then the observations and explanations are all, I go through each thing to talk about what you saw.
Wow.
So anyway, that one is quite different from the book. But even so, a lot of people are like me and my wife, we're a little older school and we're tactile. Give me a book every day over a video to watch. And plus, I just want it for reference when we're done. So what a lot of people, even if they're doing the video, they want the book.
Right.
So something that we just started here just about a month ago is subscriptions. Mm. So we've sold a lot of those online courses. They were $200 basically for the full courses, and then $150 for the kids course. And trying to make them a little more accessible to folks, right, and then give them access to more of them. So we have 3 different subscriptions now that are either $8 or $12 a month. The $8 a month for the students, it's called the Hungry Student subscription. Gets you access to all of our student courses. So Food Science Course 1, 2 when it's out, the Food Science for Kids, and then there's several other courses that are mini ones that are not full courses that they would find interesting. So you get access to all of those for as long as you have the subscription, plus access to a community. It's called the Edible Knowledge Community.
Wow.
And then something that we've mentioned already, which is called Edible Knowledge for the Curious Cook. And that's those courses are designed to take the mystery out of the mystery ingredients and to teach you principles that will help you to become a better cook. And there's a bunch of courses. I think we're up to 10 now. They're coming out at about the rate of about 2 a month. Right now I'm working on lemon meringue pie.
awesome.
It's the wrong time of year for that, I know, but I wanted one. It's my favorite pie. So, and most of these courses, you end up with something that you can actually make at the end. But just to give you an example, let me see if I can find it.
And that's challenging to make. So
yeah. So that one you'll end up. I've already recorded the video for the one that we made from scratch, and I have yet to do the one where you make it just from like the Jello box, the pudding box.
Right.
But I'll do that as well. But what I go through is I explain all the ingredients. Like, for example, this is the bacon course, which I finished about a month and a half ago. And so there's a lot of stuff in bacon that you might wonder about. Well, there's salt, sodium phosphate, sodium erythorbate, sodium nitrite. And then in the ingredient line, it says it's cured with all of these ingredients. So what in the world are all these things? Where do they come from, and what are they doing in the food? So what's their function?
Yeah.
And how are they doing it? So I go through each ingredient and explain what it is, what it's doing, all those things. And then I go through the different processes like meat curing. And these courses are all just very short videos. So like, for example, the entire bacon course is all together. It's like 40 minutes.
Okay.
But it teaches you about all these ingredients and then puts it all together. I was going to show kind of, it's basically a bunch of little movies. If you're just wondering what it's like.
I just think it's so great that this can count as a full year course. So if there's a student that, might be interested, they can just pick this course and have something a little more fun, to get their credits. I think this is great. And then the fact that you have a community is so great because a lot of people are going to have questions and want to throw ideas back and forth with other people using the same curriculum. So this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm excited about it. It's been a lot of fun putting it together.
Well, Alicia's asking if you offer a lifetime membership. Is that something you're offering yet? Or
we don't have anything like that yet. I have monthly and annual. And I haven't thought about lifetime yet. So we'll see. That might be something to consider. It's a good question. Just as a clarification, though, this particular course that I'm looking at here is part of the Edible Knowledge for Curious Cook.
Oh, okay.
And that's part of that series. And so it's not intended. This one I wrote with curious cooks, really with adults in mind. I'm marketing this on like the Food Network and things like that.
Okay.
But anybody who likes to cook in the kitchen, whether they're in junior high or high school, they would also enjoy these. It's at a level that's applied. So you don't have to have a chemistry degree to understand what's going on there. But I do explain things. For example, I have sections on fat because you have to understand some basic food science principles. So I explain what, for example, mono, di, and triglycerides are and how those relate to glycerin. And then the omega fats and omega 3s, omega 9s, how in the world do they get those names and what does that look like? So I go through all that, and it's useful stuff. And I think a lot of people will find it interesting. So in this particular one, the bacon course, I also show you how to 4 methods of making it, but that's just kind of a bonus. Really, the main thing is the science, and then I also have bloopers.
Awesome.
I mess up a lot of times when I'm recording. So there's 3 different subscriptions. There's one that's just for the students, and then there's one for that's the Curious Cook subscription. And like I mentioned, they're coming out about 2 a month. They sell for $14.99 each of those courses. But just like I said, just a month ago, we were getting enough of a following that we thought we'll start doing a subscription, and that seems to be pretty popular so far. If you like both of those things, then this is the best deal, which gets you everything. It gets you the student full courses and the Edible Knowledge for the Curious Cook. And if you subscribe to any of these things annually, then you get 20% off the books all the time. Okay. So that doesn't matter when. I send out a new code every month to all the annual subscribers, which has only been 1 month so far. And you can use that code to order the books off of our website, 20% off. So.
And I think now might be a great time to share a special shipping code that you wanted to let viewers know about.
So just for you guys for watching this video, Now, I know you're going to put this up on YouTube as well, right? In your channel?
Yep.
Yeah, this code will probably only be good through April, which is only another couple of weeks. So I guess act fast. For those who are watching, it's really for you.
Right.
So use this code and you'll get free shipping. And like I just mentioned, the annual subscriptions, I send you a new code every month for all the annual subscribers, which gives you 20% off the books all the time. So
Awesome. That's so exciting. Alicia is sharing that this has been so informative, and thank you so much. She wants to check it out.
Good. So there's a bunch of information. Like I say, these little videos, these are all like a minute to 3 minutes long. And then you can go and dive in a little more deeply into what's there. Probably really the best bet is just try it for a month. And then if you really like it, sign up for the year, and then you get the discount on the books.
Right.
I've been to a couple of shows since I've been offering the subscription. And I'm finding most people are like me. They want the book. And they really do go, you can do the book alone, or you can do the online course alone. But they do work well together, where you have the thing in front of you. And then whenever you're done with the subscription, you have the book. So what has been most popular is people are either doing this monthly to try it out. But most people are actually getting the annual version of something so that they can get the 20% off. And this has been the most popular. So
awesome.
We've been pleased so far. We hope that, and then I'm most excited because people are learning about food science.
Right. Oh, that's exciting. I think a lot of parents are going to be excited to share this with their children.
And you'd asked a question about the Lego book.
Yes.
So again, if you click on any of these books, it takes you down to where they're at. And again, there's a sample chapter. I don't have a proposed schedule for this one, but it's laid out and organized the same way as the other books. And then it's principles and then experiments. And it's also intended to be about a semester-long course if you're taking it with other classes. But I have a PDF that shows all the parts that you need. And that's also in the book.
Okay. So if you already have some of these, I like that.
Yep. And if you don't have them in the book itself, there's a page that shows you where to get them. You go straight to Lego and get them. I do sell the kit myself. But I was trying to work with the Lego company to where I could purchase them wholesale-ish.
Yeah.
So that I could afford to put them together and sell them back as a kit. And, do it so that it was worthwhile for me and also not cost too much for you. They wouldn't play that game. So, so the kits, I pretty much buy them retail and then I put it together. So I'll just be upfront. The kit, if you did it yourself to buy all the parts, if you don't have those parts, you could save yourself probably about $35.
Okay.
And I tell you exactly how to do it. But if your time is really tight, I have the kits available and you can purchase them off of my website, and then you get everything that you need. There is, where did I do it, that thing? My PDF. Oh, that's right. I went back. Oh, nope, that's the sample chapter. Here we go. There are a few things that are not Lego that you need for that one. There's a dowel of a particular type, and I explain exactly what you need. But I have that small kit available much more affordably than the Lego kit. The full kit, which comes with all the pieces and the non-Lego stuff, is $75. The book is $42.95.
Okay.
This I think is $6.99. I think is what I'm charging for the non-Lego stuff. Because those I actually, I bought a huge thing of paracord and I cut it to the right length, and same thing with a bunch of dowels and a big, huge box of rubber bands. So I have them all in little pouches. So I would suggest, is what I'm trying to say, is if you buy that and you have most of the Legos or want to do that on your own through Bricklink or wherever, go ahead and get this, because you might get a little frustrated and you need those for several of the experiments. So what other questions do people might have? I don't know how long we have. So
Well, I think you answered a lot of them. Let me see if there's any over here. Just a lot of people are really excited about this. Totally love all this. Definitely going to check it out and share it with all my homeschooling friends. And great prices for the Lego stuff. My son loves Legos. So it just looks like our followers are super excited about this. We don't have any other questions, but thank you so much for your time. This has been really informative, really exciting. Really appreciate it. So thank you, viewers, for watching us today. I want to let you know that today kicks off our Get Outside and Homeschool sale over at schoolhouseteachers.com. So if you head over there, you can see an incredible deal going on there right now. Also, if you're looking for a copy of the recent Old Schoolhouse magazine, you can go to grabissue.com and pick up one there. Be sure to tune in at the same time on Monday, May 3rd for our next interview with Nadeem of CTC Math. We will see you then. Bye.